Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tami Stackelhouse, and this is episode 129. In today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to a tool I have been obsessed with recently and something that's helping me feel even better. It's the T-Zone vibration machine. I've also invited Sarah Aboody, owner and general manager of T-Zone, to share the results of a small informal study that she did with me and my students and coaches. We'll also share information on the machines that we used in our study and even have some discount codes if you want to try one yourself. While I am pretty new to using whole body vibration, the modality itself is not new. Whole body vibration has been used for decades for things like increasing muscle strength and bone density, improving flexibility and mobility, and improving circulation. According to the NIH, whole body vibration is a technology that was first developed by scientists in the second half of the 20th century as a way to reduce bone density loss and muscle atrophy in astronauts exposed to zero gravity conditions. And as I did my research, I also discovered some reports of doctors using various types of vibration as far back as in the 1800s. One doctor in Paris discovered that his Parkinson's patients would report that they felt better after their train ride to come see him. And so he developed a chair that would sort of mimic the motion of a train ride. And that was maybe the first example of a type of whole body vibration machine. I also discovered several studies using whole body vibration to treat fibromyalgia symptoms. These studies showed improvements in pain, fatigue, stiffness, and even inflammation. While our little informal study had some amazing results, which we will share in our interview today, every body is different. And so your results, of course, may be different than what we share here. And as always, the information that we include in this podcast is not meant to be considered medical advice, and it is not intended to replace consulting with a qualified physician or other healthcare provider. Our intention is always to give you new ideas, new things you can talk about with your providers. And, if this is something that you want to try, we've also got some discounts and some advice for you to help you have it be as successful as possible. Now, let me introduce you to our guest. Sarah Aboody is the owner and general manager of T-Zone Vibration, a family-owned enterprise in Toronto, Canada. With over 15 years of innovation in the exercise and wellness industry, T-Zone Vibration produces one of North America's most popular vibration plates, emphasizing accessibility and effectiveness for all ages and body types. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. I'm so excited to share T-Zone with everybody. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Tami. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
It's been, a minute in the developing, right? I was thinking earlier today about how long we've been working together, and we're moving in on a year now.
Oh my gosh, has it been? It's been a laugh a minute though, so it's all good. We're having a good time.
It's been so great. So for everybody listening, they've heard a little bit about you, a little bit about the company, but let's start with just what the heck is whole body vibration, right? Like clearly it's vibrating your whole body, right? Like we can tell that from the name, but tell us what that is.
Yeah, sure. So basically, whole body vibration or vibration plates, that kind of thing, it's a tool. It's an exercise tool. It's a tool that creates motion, and it allows your body to respond to it. So it allows you to exercise in a more convenient, faster, more comfortable way. You can use it by just standing on it. You can sit on it. You can do your resistance training on it. And what it does is it keeps you destabilized a little bit. Like if you're watching on the video, you can see it's sort of like a teeter-totter. So it's ours is pivotal. which is with the pivotal in the middle there, or oscillating. So it's going back and forth really, really quickly. So your muscle has to respond. Your body is feeling a little bit destabilized and you're trying to stabilize. And then there's more circulation, there's more activity in the body, there's all kinds of good stuff that can happen.
That's awesome. And this might be a good moment to point out that, there are different types of machines out there. If you're listening, if you scroll through Facebook like I do, you see lots of ads. What Sarah just said about it being pivotal or oscillating, that back and forth rocking motion is a really important key thing. They actually did studies on using these machines for fibromyalgia. And one of the studies looked at which type of vibration would be best for fibromyalgia. And it was the oscillating type, not the ones that just move up and down or move in all kinds of crazy directions. It's just the back and forth oscillating ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically the reason is because that teeter-totter motion is most like walking. So it's the most natural to the body. The other types have their place. It's harder on the body. Some people want that. If you want to work on a vertical jump, if you're a high-level athlete, sometimes you want that high impact. For us, for most of our customers, for most of the people that you're working with, that's probably not what they're looking for. So, I mean, we could have done the other way as well, but we researched it a fair bit, and we've been doing this for close to 20 years, and we stuck with oscillating. That's the one for us that we think is the most appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if I remember correctly in the study, part of their hypothesis for why this was better for us with fibromyalgia is that if you're just going straight up and down, there's a lot more, that motion is translated through your spine to your head, your brain. Like there's more movement up here, where the back and forth, like walking, isn't as jarring to your brain, brainstem, spinal cord, all of that. So
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right? You
it
can kind
does.
of picture the feeling, and which one is right for you just by picturing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what can whole body vibration be used for? Obviously, I've kind of given away a little bit. They've done studies on this for fibromyalgia, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But just in general, what is it used for? How did this even become a thing?
Yeah, how did it become a thing? Well, what it's used for is a real wide variety of approaches. So we have 95-year-olds use it. We have pro athletes. We have pro weightlifters use it. It can be a recovery tool. It can be the main tool that you use for your resistance training. It can be something that you just use for circulation and massage. And what I like about it is that anywhere in that sort of line of fitness and where you are with your body on any particular day, it will work with you. Like it is exercise. It's an exercise machine. So like any other exercise, what you put in, you get more out based on what you put in. But some days you just want to stand. Some days you just want to sit. And it will give you that circulation. It will release some muscles. It will make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And as you progress, you can decide to do some gentle stretches. You can open up. You can do your forward bends. You can then decide, I want to do some more strength training. So you can do your squats and lunges, your push-ups, your resistant bands, all that kind of stuff. You can do some cardio on our machine because we have some accessories that go with the machine, come with it, that allow you to do that. So it's really broad, and people use it for all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned being able to use it maybe on the days where you don't want to work out hard. And I use an app called Gentler Streak, which those of you who listen to the podcast, that was episode 121 as we interviewed them. But yesterday, my husband and I went to the mall. We had dinner at a restaurant there, and we got there early, did a lot of walking around. And so my Gentler Streak is telling me today, you did a lot yesterday. You might want to take it easy today. And I don't have to not do anything. I can get on my machine and I can just like stand there and not work hard and still get the benefits of the circulation and the, building muscle and things like that. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely. I
love
was
that.
listening to your recent podcast also about the importance of rest.
Yeah.
And it is so important to be able to give yourself just time to relax, but it doesn't mean you have to derail your habits. So there's a way of combining those things where you just push yourself only as much as you feel like you need to that day, but you can still do something gentle like this. You can just get on the machine for a few minutes and see if it makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of times where, I don't necessarily feel like doing anything, but if I get on my machine and I use it for a little while, then it kind of gets everything moving and I'm like, okay, now I can go for a walk.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. That's it. I mean, what I really like about it too is it feels good.
Yeah.
Like it feels good to go on it. It's more like a massage than it is like, training for a marathon or whatever. It's
Right.
it's something all you have to promise yourself is I'm going to get on it and turn it on. That's all you have to do. So the bar to getting yourself into an exercise routine is much lower. If you don't know what to do, if you haven't been to the gym in a long time, if you just don't know where to start, that's all you have to do. You can promise yourself a couple of minutes on the machine. And then we tend to find that people just naturally start to challenge themselves. You might even off the machine, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you've been going for a big long walk and things like that. That might be something that someone wouldn't have been able to do before they got into the habit of using the machine, and then they just feel better. So
Mm-hmm.
all these things kind of come together. You can also challenge yourself more on using the product, but it flows into the rest of your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's lots of benefits here too, with that slight destabilization that you were talking about, makes your muscles have to respond. So we're building muscle tone, we're helping balance, right? We're all of these things. Interestingly, and y'all listening, I'm going to put a link to this on our show notes page. But there was a study done that showed that in fibromyalgia patients, whole body vibration actually helped with the immune system, the some of the inflammatory markers, bringing down inflammation, ways that I would not have expected this to help. So, really, really interesting stuff. And, when you reached out to me, the big question we both had is, but can people really tolerate this? And can they tolerate it well?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that we really wanted to look into, because we knew that we wanted to find something that fibromyalgia people can use. And we know that people with fibromyalgia, just like anybody else, need to exercise, need to have movement in their day. So how do we do that in a way that doesn't flare you up?
Mm-hmm. Right. So we used some of my students and coaches as guinea pigs and created our own little informal survey study thing.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, preface, this was not a clinical trial by any means. This was just something that we decided. I approached Tami and I said, let's do something. And you said, cool, I'll believe it when I see it. A
Kind
little
of,
bit,
yes.
which is what we both wanted, right? We both wanted to make sure that it was something that really worked for your clients and the people that you work with, and your coaches as well. And so we got together. Tami, you asked a few people if they'd be up for it, and thankfully we were very happy that they were. And it was something that they typically, I think, wanted to know for themselves too before they started to maybe consider suggesting it to their own clients.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was really important for both of us that we did that.
Yeah. So we ended up with how many people again? Do you
It
remember?
was 9. I say that kind of like 9. There were some people that used it more than other people, but I just, for
Sure.
the purposes of the averages and things, I didn't delete any information. I just put everything in that everyone said. So
Right, right. And I remember we had a couple of people who had to discontinue using it because of injury, unrelated to the machine, things like that. So yeah. So tell us, I know, tell everybody else. What did we discover?
Yeah, sure. Dun, 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 dun. So what we did is we had people rate 3 things before they went on the machine, and that was their fatigue, their stiffness or soreness, and pain. So pain being different from stiffness.
Yes. Yeah.
So we had we did a little Google poll type thing that they had to fill in, and they filled in that information. They rated it from 0 to 10, and then they got on the machine and they told us how long they stood on the machine or sat or exercised, what they did on it, and what speed they used. We just wanted to get a sense of that. So I'll give you the grand results. At the end of a month, we had in fatigue, we were just hoping that fatigue would not go
Right.
up.
And
right?
we weren't even hoping that pain would get better. We were just hoping that people could do it without making things worse.
Yeah, that's really what we were hoping to see, was that people would say, yeah, I can do it. I'm managing. Fatigue actually decreased, so people felt less fatigued, 17.7%, which is enormous to me. I think that's a huge result.
Yes.
Stiffness, we knew that we'd get something out of that, and it was 32% decrease. So that's a third. And pain, we also had improvements in pain levels. We had a decrease of 18.7% in pain. So we were just thrilled. And that was people generally using it on 1 or really low speeds, and almost everybody was just standing. There were some people that sat on the machine or beside the machine, and some people that did some stretches or did some resistance training. And those people, the more they did, like we expected, for the most part, got a little bit more out of it. But just standing on it for an average of 5.5 minutes, some people 10 minutes, some people 2. And they all, generally speaking, got results. Almost every time they got results.
That's amazing. I mean, those numbers are actually better than some of the medications for fibromyalgia.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and it's exercise, right? I mean, we know
Yes.
that exercise is really the magic pill that's just so hard to
For
swallow, right? Like,
everybody, not just
yeah, not for just,
fibromyalgia,
oh
right?
no,
Like
I
if you want to
mean,
live longer, be healthier, exercise is a piece of that, right?
exercise is one of the pillars of health. I mean, like, we know that that's something that you have to do, and 80% of the population doesn't do it or doesn't do it enough, right? So
Right.
we're finding something that people can do. So that's where these pieces come in, about it being really easy to just convince yourself to get into the habit of getting on, and just starting wherever you are, wherever you're at, you can start, and just building a habit. Building the habit for exercise is really the key for it, because the rest just kind of goes from there. It builds itself.
So just to make sure y'all are really clear on what we're saying here, you could have a 17, 18% decrease in pain and fatigue, and a third less stiffness, more mobility, easier to move around. And all you have to do is turn the machine on, stand on it for a few minutes. You don't even have to do anything else. That's
Yeah,
what we're saying.
that's what we're saying in theory. Individual results may vary, all of that kind of stuff. Some people bring different things to it. We had some people who got on the machine and went from an 8 to a 1. Some people just came down a little bit, and sometimes that was depending on the day, depending on what else was going on in their lives, how long they spent on the machine. But for the most part, we found everybody, I think, came out of it feeling like this was a really good tool for them.
Yes, it absolutely was. All the feedback I've heard from everybody has just been amazing. I know one gal, I'm going to try to find a quote from her for all of you guys, but she only started off at a minute, and then did that for a few days, went to 2 minutes, like very slowly worked her way up. And the things that she noticed were like going to the farmer's market, overdoing it maybe a little bit, where you would end up in a flare the next day. And she didn't end up in a flare the next day.
Yeah.
right? So increasing that stamina, increasing the muscle strength, and all of that. Just so many good things. And as you said, right, individual results may vary. We had some people who, different points along the way, actually made things worse. You want to talk about those scenarios a
Yeah,
little?
there was, so one of the people had, unrelated, but still something to keep in mind, is she had tinnitus. She had tinnitus in her arm. So that was something we had to be really careful of, because tinnitus is one of those things that you need circulation, but also often you just need rest.
Right,
So
right. You don't
it,
want to
it
irritate it more
yeah,
with the
it can get
motion of the,
irritated. And
yeah.
this is one of those things that it's doing more than it feels like. Like you get on it and you're like, ooh, kind of fun. Like everyone giggles, partly because of the word vibration, but also because it's kind of fun, right? Like it kind of feels good to do, and everyone gets on and has a laugh. And like I say, partly they just find it funny, but also because it's feels good.
Right.
So, you get on it, and lots of people tend to get on it and want to stay on it longer than they maybe even need to. We more have make efforts to tell people, just progress slowly. You don't have to,
It
start.
feels good, so you want to do more, right?
That's it. You want to
And
do
you don't
more.
realize what's actually happening.
Yeah, and we encourage you to do more, but we encourage you to build on your results
Yeah.
really slowly, incrementally. Like the one person that you mentioned who built up, she started 1 minute one week, 2 minutes the next week, 3 minutes the next week. She built it up really slowly. She just layered it up like that, and it was a beautiful way to approach it. There is no rush. You don't have to suddenly be on the thing all the time or walking around all over the place, all this kind of stuff. 10 seconds if you want. Get on the
Mhm.
machine for 30 seconds and then just see how that feels. Let's just let that settle.
Mhm. What were some of the other? I know there were a few more scenarios where people noticed maybe their pain or their fatigue was worse after a session, and we learned
Yeah,
a few things.
we learned a few things. I forgot your question. I just start going. Yeah, so fatigue, that was one that we dug into a little bit, because we had some people, mostly people got on the machine and their fatigue got better. Just like exercise, any other kind of exercise. You start to walk around and you're like, ugh, you go out for a walk and okay, I feel better. So they would get on the machine and they would typically feel better. Some people, we found when we were looking in the data, felt more tired after. But when we looked into why, we realized that people were trying to do this every day, like we had talked about, and they were going on at the very end of the day, sometimes midnight, when they were already zonked, and it was just wiping them out completely. So that was a real good learning for us, for all of us, to realize the time of day helps. If you put your exercise in earlier in the day, there's a lot of benefits to it. One is you get an energy rebound usually. The other is that you feel better for the rest of the day. Some people do use the machine at night if they want it as something to relax them, to sort of work out some kinks if you have some pain or
Sciatica,
sciatica
restless
or some
legs, those kinds of
soreness, all
things.
those kind
Yeah.
of things. There's certainly a case to be made to using it at the end of the day, but as a preparation for sleep.
Mm-hmm. And so you might use it differently, right? Like you might use it. One of the things we should talk about is the differences in speed and how they work differently on the body. But the higher speed being more about circulation and, kind of more like a massage, right? You
Yeah.
might just stand there at a higher speed and not do your other exercises, right, before bed, where in the morning, when you're actually doing it more as your exercise, you might do lower speeds and maybe do some other things on the machine, right?
Yeah, that's right. And if we were to redo this, the machines we have two models, and both of them go from 1 to 99. And to tell you the truth, if I were to do it over again, I would just have a low, medium, high, because people get caught up on which speed is the right speed. And it's not so critical. Those variations are there if you're into that. If not, the lower speeds are what we suggest for muscle strengthening, because your muscles are still trying to stabilize you with the movement. As you get into the high speeds, that just almost feels like that's just circulation. That's just massage. It's like just pure movement. So you can use those for shorter periods of time just to get some movement in your body. None of these are written in stone. If you like the higher speeds and you want to do your push-ups on a high speed, have at it, no problem. But just as guidance, that's what we recommend.
Yep, yep. I definitely find that if a couple weeks ago, my husband and I ran away for the weekend, and we were in the car driving to the place, driving home, and sometimes that makes my ankles swell up a little bit. So, first thing I did when I got home was went and stood on my machine and cranked that speed up and get things moving.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, there's nothing here that's, dangerous, right? Like we go ahead and play around with it. This is yours. You can experiment with it and try different speeds, try different the foot position is another thing that we suggest people work on because it's that teeter-totter motion. So you can imagine if your feet are closer together in the middle, your displacement is not as much, right? So the up and downish of it is not so much. As you work your feet out, that's really how you can control the intensity is you keep your feet wide apart if you want to feel more. And if it becomes too much for you, real easy way to fix that is just put your feet right together.
And you guys can imagine that, right? A teeter-totter, the ends of the teeter-totter move a whole lot more than the parts that are closer to the middle. It's the same kind of thing. Now, we've mentioned a couple times like sitting on it or having people put their feet on it, but we haven't really talked about that. And that was something that actually surprised me about being able to use the machine in that way.
Yeah, I mean, we have some people who, have had significant mobility issues and things like that, and we will put them in a chair in front of the machine just to start feeling the motion and start getting that circulation. There's different ways you can do it. You can sit on the machine. That would allow the vibration to travel up through more of the back and kind of the upper part of the body, because of course your body is absorbing that motion, that vibration as it travels up the body. That's what bodies do. That's what knees do. That's what hips do. So if you wanted to work out different areas, I have like a shoulder thing. So I often end up sitting on the machine and kind of working that way.
I also think that's really important for anybody who has any kind of injury, right? Because I have a knee that occasionally gives me trouble. And when it is inflamed and a little bit swollen, it's kind of like we were talking about the person in our test with tendonitis, right? I don't want that part of my body to move. So I'll sit on the machine because the vibration moves from my butt up.
Yeah.
Or if somebody either, if you've got chronic fatigue, if you have balance issues, if you're older, you can just put your feet on the machine and sit in a chair beside the machine and still get benefits from that. So
yeah, absolutely. And like we say, slow and steady. If you're not sure, just start with that. This is a journey. So just start sitting in front of it, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. That's where we are, and that's totally fine.
I love it. I love it. Now, why T-zone?
Why
right?
T-zone?
Like I
Yeah,
said,
fair.
you scroll through Facebook, you see ads for these machines all the time. Why would somebody want to choose yours?
Okay. So first of all, we prefer this oscillating motion. So any of the machines out there for us, that's probably the suitable one.
And I will also say, if you've got fibromyalgia, that is what you want. That's what the research has shown that you want.
Yeah, that's it. And there's also another, sort of mentioned that we have an accessory, which is a soft mat. So we have a hard and soft mat that you can use. And that's only T-Zone, we're the only ones that have that. And that can make it a lot more comfortable. This is another thing I learned, Tami, through you that I wouldn't have thought about is the sensitivity of, we call them fibro feet, the sensitivity of your feet, right? So this is something that softer mat was helpful with. And
I did that.
We talked about socks and all that kind of stuff. This is one of those things that you can wear shoes if you want. More shoes absorb the shock. So if you can go barefoot or with some thinner socks or thicker socks if you need it. But that soft mat helps with that. It also lets you sit more comfortably. It lets you do seated postures. If you're to work up to a V-sit or sit-ups, that kind of thing, you can do with the soft mat. You can also do some cardio moves on the soft mat a lot more comfortably than you can with the hard mat. So that's something like walking in the spot. We have for the small machine, the HE90, we have these poles that come with it. So they're balance poles. So you can, if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, you have those poles. They're just for support. You can use them as for skiing motions. There's different stretches and things you can do. It comes with exercise bands that you can use for resistance training. We have an app as well called Vibration Works. It's a free, no ads app. It's got about 100 or so videos that you can use. We've got a stand that seems funny, but now like when we put it with the app, it makes sense. We have a stand that you can put your tablet or your smartphone in, so it can stand in front of your machine and you can watch those videos. We've got kind of the whole package. Our machine is a lot quieter. There's always cheap things out there. I know that. But ours is a lot quieter. It's made really well. The warranty and this kind of stuff matters, and we stand by it. We're a North American family company. I'm the daughter of the family. So,
Right.
you're supporting some good people, I think. I like to say.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Thanks, man. And it's a good product. Another thing that we have is an easy pay plan, and that's sort of a payment plan that you can use with us. It's not through a bank. It's financed by us, the company. So we're more flexible with it. If you sent an email in and said, "Hey, Sarah, I had a real big Christmas. Can we skip January?" That's fine. We can do that kind of thing. All it is a down payment. There's a little bit of a service charge per month, and then you've got a machine. We just need a credit card with 3 months till expiry. So we've got a lot of ways that we can support you. We understand the population out there. We know how this machine is used. We've seen a lot of things, and we are always there to give you suggestions and ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you guys have been amazing. Yeah.
Thanks,
And
man.
you've got
You
you've got two different machines. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think sometimes it's hard to choose, right? And there's benefits to both, right?
Yeah, right. So the machine that we generally used for the little information gathering test that we did with your team there was the smaller machine called the HE90. So that's a sort of a floor machine that's, a couple feet wide. It's not huge. You can shove it under a bed or a couch or something like that. And then we have a larger machine, which is our bread and butter machine. We've had it forever. And that is a larger base with a more robust motor. It goes a lot slower, which some people think, this is another thing when you're picking machines. Some people think faster, bigger, banger, brighter, better. Not so. Some claims out there are, I'm going to just call them ridiculous, because they talk about huge G-forces, which is like G-force being gravity.
Astronauts
Yep, exactly. When the astronauts blast off, that's something that these machines do because of the motion, that up and down, the pushing that it does, that creates a bit of a G-force, which also makes your body feel heavier. So there's some claims out there for outrageous levels of G-force, which are damaging if they were true, and it's not true. So we like something a little more controlled. Going back to what I was talking about, the VT20, the big machine, starts a lot slower. Some people want that. Some people need it. Mm-hmm. And it can go faster too. And the design has sort of a 3-side wraparound arms and simple console in front, so that you feel a little more stable. So we suggest that for our customers who are a little bit older, anyone who has a balance issue, I really prefer them on that larger machine. It's just the sort of the Cadillac version. The small machine is great. It'll do the job for you for sure. Mm-hmm. The big machine is just that one step up.
Yeah. I know a couple of the people that were in our little survey, found that even on the very first speed with the small machine, it was still maybe a little faster than they wanted. And they were able to work around that by doing things like just putting their feet on the machine. But with the larger machine and slower speeds, that would have taken care of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I prefer the larger machine. Just
Mm-hmm.
I like having that kind of the
Mm-hmm.
slower speeds to start, and then I use them.
Mm-hmm.
But
And I
and
think,
understanding that it's more expensive, and that's also why we have the easy pay plan.
yeah, yeah. And I think the larger one is big enough you can actually put a chair on the machine.
Yeah,
Is
we
it?
have an accessory that doesn't come with it now, but if you really twisted my arm, I could probably put that in with some people, especially if you need it, right? Because there's
Yes. Yeah.
the mat comes out. It's really simple to switch the mat from the to the hard and the soft mat. It's a little tray, and then the mat comes out, and then the chair, just a little kind of folding sort of chair that can fit right in there, and then you don't even have to bend as far down because the base is a little bit high up, like high up enough that for some people that's comfortable to get down there to sit. But for other people, it was just too
Mm-hmm.
much. So
Right.
we had the chair accessory so that people could sit comfortably, and you can sit there and do your Wordle or watch a movie or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
just getting you on that machine, whatever it takes to get you using your machine, that's what we'll do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And I know for you listening, like this might sound like an infomercial. And I guess in a way it might be a little bit, but we are here talking about this because of the survey that we did, the little study that we did, and the results that we saw. And honestly, it would be unfair to you to not share something that could potentially reduce your pain by almost 20%, right? Or increase your flexibility and improve your fatigue. Like that's what I'm here for, is to share those things with you that are going to help you do that. This is one of them. This has been a huge piece of my own maintenance. Using this in conjunction with Gentler Streak, which, like I said, episode 121, we'll have a link in today's show notes, fibromyalgiapodcast.com/129 for today's episode. We'll have those links there too. But Gentler Streak kind of tells me how much I'm working and if I'm going to overdo it or if I'm not doing enough. It kind of tells me where that sweet spot is. And then my T Zone machine helps me stay in that sweet spot by either doing, maybe more intense workout on it, or like I'm going to do a little bit later today, stand there and do nothing. Yep. So,
That's
like I
it.
said, this has been a huge game changer for me, and all the people that have tried it have said the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you know that we went through what we did to just gather the data as best we could. Like we say, this isn't a clinical trial, but it felt really it felt really real, and we learned some things from it, and just the consistency of the results that we got really surprised me. I was really happy with the feedback that we got from it.
Me too. Me too. All right. So we have some special discount codes for listeners of the podcast. We will have those. There's, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them. We'll have those on today's show notes page. So if you are interested in a machine, I'm also purposely not saying prices because I don't know if you're listening to this in 2024 or if you're listening to this 3 years from now. So we'll put all the links on today's show notes, and you can use those links to go see what the current price options are, what the discounts are, and all of that. But right now, we've got, what are the discounts again that you guys
Well,
gave
we've
us? Do you
got
remember?
what have we got? We've got a discount for the small machine called the HE90 for 25% off, which is significant. And there's also some little accessories like massage gun and things like that. If you wanted one of those, it'll apply to that too. And then we have for our large machine, which is right now $23.99, and it's a $400 discount. So it'll bring you down to $19.99.
Awesome. That is awesome. We also, just before we hit the record button, Sarah offered to give free shipping as well through the end of March. Is that on both machines then?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. March of 2024.
So we'll have details, all that on there as well. The link where you can order those discount codes. So just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/129 for today's episode show notes, and we'll have all those links to you for you. And if you want to reach out to me, or if you want to reach out to Sarah, if you've got questions before you want to try or buy a machine, we'll be happy to answer those for you as well. It truly has been a game changer for a lot of us, and just another tool that helps us better manage our fibromyalgia, which is, it's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's it. And it's not just for fibro bodies, right? So everyone in the household can probably get some benefits.
Yes, that is one thing that I've been hearing from my people who took part in our little study, is that, everybody else in the family is using their machine too, which is awesome. Which is awesome. There are not very many things that we do for ourselves as fibro people that the rest of our family can benefit from too. And so it's kind of nice to be able to share that, have it be a family thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wrap up then, Sarah, is there anything that you want to share with the person listening who is thinking about this or wondering about this, about whether or not they can use vibration, if it's really going to help, all of that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, any exercise routine, anything you're starting, you're going to check with your healthcare practitioner. You're going to check in with yourself, see if this feels right to you. You're the only experts that you can rely on for what's right for your body. And then when you decide to try it, we'll start real slow. Like we talked about, we can start with a minute. We can start with keeping your feet together on a low speed, just monitoring how that feels. And then you can start to build from there. You can try like exactly what we tried. Why not? Do your own recording of your symptoms and how you feel. Start writing it down, rate it out of 10 before you get on the machine, and then rate it after. And that kind of work really is helpful for all kinds of stuff, but seeing what is working for you, and you can see if there's trends overall. That I really encourage any of that kind of perspective on using anything new like that. But keeping your feet together, just a couple of minutes at a time, work your way out, start on a low speed, experiment with the high speeds when you're ready, and have fun and trust yourself and do what feels good to you. And nobody knows better than you do.
That's right. I love that. And it's true. I mean, that is the best way to manage your fibromyalgia, is get to know your body really, really well so that you know what she needs in any given moment. And that can sometimes be a hard thing to do. So y'all, if you need any help with that, that's what our coaches are all about, is to help you start to get back in touch with your body and figure out, some of those things Sarah was saying. Does this help me feel better? Does this help me feel worse? And all of that. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. All the discounts, all the information, all the doing the study, even just being interested in the first place. It's just been such a treat to have a company that is invested in our fibromyalgia community and helping us feel better. It's been amazing.
Oh, it's been, Tami, I'll tell you on the air and off it, what a pleasure you are to work with. You're just intuitive, you're smart, you're thoughtful, you're careful, and the opportunity to go through this and really dive into it was so valuable to us. Our customers aren't the bodybuilder type. Some of them are, but that's not that doesn't give us as much satisfaction as bringing exercise and bringing wellness to people who maybe haven't had a conventional way of working out. And this has been really rewarding for us. So I genuinely thank you.
Oh, you guys are so welcome. You're so welcome. My hope for our community, is that it's going to be the thing that can bridge the gap for fibro people to be able to go from where most of us are, where exercise always makes us feel terrible, even though everybody tells us it's what we should do, and bridge that gap over to where maybe we can go do other things, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And you deserve to exercise. You deserve to feel good.
Yeah.
You deserve to have a solution that works for you instead of you trying to make something else work.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Sarah. And for you all listening, stay tuned. We've got this week's listener shout out. I'll share a little bit more, a couple of tips just from my own experience on the machine, and other information for you in just a minute. And that wraps up my interview with Sarah Aboody from T-Zone Vibration. Now, Sarah and I realized after we stopped the recording that there was one really important thing that we left out. And that's the fact that there are some people that vibration may not be suitable for. And we wanted to make sure and mention that. So if you are pregnant or think you might be, if you have a pacemaker or other major implant, if you have a serious cardiac condition, if you have active cancer, an actively herniated disc, those types of things. Basically, what we worry about is with all the motion and movement that a vibration plate creates, that something might move from where it's supposed to be to where it shouldn't be. So, of course, just like starting any other exercise routine, please use caution and check with your healthcare provider. I also said that I would give you some tips, right? So here we go. First off, if you already have a vibration machine, please check to see what type of vibration is being used. Is it the kind that goes back and forth like a teeter-totter, or is it the kind that goes straight up and down, or does it move in other ways? The studies that have been done looking at different types of vibration for fibromyalgia showed that that back and forth seesaw type of motion is the one that provides the best results for fibromyalgia. This is sometimes called rotational motion or oscillating or pivoting. But the idea here is that from left leg to right leg, it's moving in an up and down, back and forth motion. Now, if you've ever tried whole body vibration and had a bad experience, it could be that it was the wrong type of vibration. Now, once you're sure you have the right kind of machine, whether you get a T-Zone machine or already have one that does the right type of motion, then like everything that we do with fibromyalgia, start low and go slow. As Sarah mentioned today, one of our study participants started at the very lowest speed, and she stood on the machine for only 1 minute the first week. Other participants would sit in a chair with just their feet on the machine, or even sit on the machine itself. One person who did that said, "It's crazy. My legs feel stronger and I've just been sitting. I've only stood on the machine once." So start small. You'll still see results. And of course, listen to your body. You might even need to go one day and then skip a day or two and then try it again. Make sure you give your body the space it needs to tell you how it feels. And remember, with fibromyalgia, we're like the princess in The Princess and the Pea. We've got extra sensitive bodies and nervous systems, and we need to be gentle. I also, speaking of being gentle, I also recommend checking out Gentler Streak if you have an Apple Watch. I'll link to the episode in today's show notes so you can get more information about that app. There's even a code where you can get a free 2-week trial of Gentler Streak. So go to today's show notes, fibromyalgiapodcast.com/129, and we will have the link to the Gentler Streak app where you can get the discount code and try it and see how it works. It's really been a game changer for a lot of us in knowing when we're going to overdo our activity levels. And honestly, it helps keep you in that sweet spot where you're improving your fitness, but not pushing yourself into a flare. Now, several of our coaches were part of the study we did with T-Zone. So if you want help improving your fibromyalgia and you want some help using whole body vibration to do that, consider scheduling a consultation with one of our students or coaches. Many of them have experience with this themselves and use it themselves. We'll have a link to where you can schedule a consultation on our show notes page. Again, it's just fibromyalgiapodcast.com/129. And you might be hearing this and thinking, wait a minute, how do I get in on those special trials and things that Tami's doing? Well, if you're interested in joining our community of students and coaches and being part of these special programs, getting these special deals, then consider joining our next class. We are enrolling now. Our next class starts in just a couple weeks. And I even have a free open house that I'm doing for those who are interested in learning more about the training programs, but who aren't quite ready to apply yet. That class is coming up real soon on March 5th. So go to today's show notes, fibromyalgiapodcast.com/129, and we'll have links to where you can register for the open house or learn more about our classes and our training programs. And now I've got this week's listener shout out for you. This is a comment from Darcy on our Facebook page. She says, I have been following your page for some time, but never really listened to the podcasts until a couple weeks ago. Let me tell you how much of a game changer these have been. I'm still in 2019. I started listening from the beginning, but I'm learning and applying now. Thank you for doing what you do. And thank you so much, Darcy. I am so glad you decided to try out the podcast. You know, on Facebook, on social media, on Instagram, I can only share little snippets. I can't share the whole thing with you. So the podcast is where I get to talk to you a whole lot longer and share a whole lot more information and teach you how to apply some of this stuff. And that is the point, right? You can listen to every single word of every single podcast, but it's not going to change your life unless you apply what you learn. And sometimes applying is easier said than done. And so if you ever need help applying what you learn in this podcast, reach out and schedule a consultation with one of my students or coaches. That, my friends, is what we're here for. See you back here next time.